Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's baking blog. Today I'm going to be making Tosca cake. This is a Scandinavian or a Nordic, a cake from the Nordic countries, Finland, Sweden, Denmark, etc. And it's actually a layer of butter or sponge type cake, and then it's topped with almond praline. So we bake the cake, then we make the praline, pour it over and bake it a little bit longer. So it sounds wonderful. I've checked a good few recipes and they're all pretty much the same, but I've come up with what I think will be good. So let's get on. I should say that we'll start off by preheating our oven to 190 Celsius. That's 170 Celsius with a fan, and that is 365 Fahrenheit. I've also taken a 9-inch springform pan and I've greased it and I've lined the bottom with parchment paper. So that's ready for the cake. So we'll go on to the ingredients, and for the cake I have 150 grams of plain flour. That's 1 cup and 2 tablespoons. I have 150 grams of icing sugar or confectioner's sugar. That's 1 cup and 2 tablespoons. I don't often use icing sugar in cake, but I'm going to for this one. I have 3 medium eggs, which would be large in the USA. I have 2.5 teaspoons, 10 grams of baking powder. I have half a teaspoon of salt. I have 75 grams of butter which I've melted, and that works out at 5 tablespoons plus 1 teaspoon. And I have 70 milliliters of milk here, which is a quarter of a cup and a dessert spoon. And into that I've put 1 teaspoon of white vinegar, and I did that about 10 minutes ago. So that's going to curdle the milk slightly, like a bit like buttermilk. And I've also scraped 1 vanilla bean and put the seeds into that milk. Now you don't have to add the vanilla if you don't want to, or if you've got bean paste you could use that. So they're the ingredients for the sponge, and I'll just tell you about the almond praline or praline. For that I have 150 grams of almonds, which is about 6.5 ounces. I have 100 grams of butter, and that is 7 tablespoons. I have 50 milliliters of milk, which is a quarter of a cup minus 1 dessert spoon. And I have 125 grams of soft brown sugar. I'm using light brown sugar, and that is about 2/3 of a cup. So I'll set those to one side. Now I should say I melted my butter for the sponge, and that's cooling down. So while that cools down, we'll go on to make the cake. So the first thing I'm going to do is to put the salt and the baking powder into the flour, and then I'm going to stir those around to get those combined into the flour. So that's ready to use. So then I'm going to put the eggs and the icing sugar into a larger bowl, and I'm going to whisk those until they're frothy. I'm just going to start off with the hand whisk, then I'll go on to my electric whisk, only because it's easier. I'm starting with a hand whisk so that I can get the sugar into the eggs without it going everywhere, because icing sugar is very light and it flies everywhere. So that should be good enough for that. So then we'll use the electric whisk, And we'll just whisk these until they're quite frothy or fluffy. So that's the eggs and the, oops, I'm making a mess, and the sugar mixed. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the flour and I'm going to put in a third at a time, and after mixing 1/3 I'm then going to mix half the milk mixture and then go on and do the second third, half the milk mixture, and then the last third. So we'll just put some of the flour in just like that, and I'm going to fold that in, and once that is mixed in, I'm going to add half the milk and mix that in as well. Then another third of the flour. The remaining milk mixture with the vanilla as well. And then the remaining flour. And then with the flour just about mixed, and it will continue to mix, I'm going to put the butter in half at a time and mix that in as well. Put the remaining butter in. And then with that mixed and butter incorporated, I'm going to put that into our cake tin. Like that. And I'm going to bake that for 30 minutes in my oven, and then when there's 10 minutes left I will start to make the almond praline. So I'll come back and show you that as the 10 minutes are remaining on the bake. It's about 11 minutes now until our cake is ready to come out of the oven. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the butter and the sugar and the milk into a pan, and I'm going to bring those up to a boil. I'm going to start with the butter. The reason for that is that I don't want the milk to stick to the bottom of the pan. And then I'll put the sugar in as well. And then I'll put the milk in as well. And I'll bring that up to a boil. And that's just starting to boil now. So I'm going to tip the almonds in as well. I'm going to mix those around. Now these are flaked almonds. You could use whole almonds and chop them up roughly. I think these are known as shaved almonds in some places, but here in the UK we refer to them as flaked almonds. I'm going to let this cook. And keep it cooking gently until the cake is ready to come out of the oven. Then as soon as it comes out of the oven, we're going to pour this over the top. So our praline is just about ready to pour over the cake, and the cake is just about baked. So let's go on and do that. So there's our cake, and what I'm going to do is pour the praline and almonds over the top and spread that all over very quickly. Like that. Try to get it fairly level if I can. And then I'm going to put that back into the oven, reducing the heat to 170 Celsius. That's 150 Celsius with a fan, 325 Fahrenheit, and I'm going to bake that for another 25 minutes. Then I'll take it out of the oven and let it cool down for a while before we take it out of the tin. Then I'll come back and show you the results. Our cake has been out of the oven, then it's cooled down. And what I did was I have run my offset spatula all the way around the edge on the inside, so that I can take the springform ring away. And this is what the cake looks like. I'll just see if I can easily take off the paper. So what I'm going to do is just cut a small slice out of that if I can. And I'll put that onto a plate. So that's what our cake looks like, with this lovely crust on the top. So I'll have a taste of that. That's very nice indeed. That's got that lovely soft cake with a hint of vanilla I can taste, and then the almond praline topping, which is a completely different texture, and very, very nice indeed. So it sets quite nicely, and it's got that sort of crunch to it as you bite into the crust. I hope you've enjoyed this recipe, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below the video and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, which will take you to this recipe, and I'll also put a link to it below the video. I will be back with you with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.